Coming up on our newscast, putting aside controversy over a vetoed bill and strife within the ruling Saenuri Party, President Park calls on her top aides to focus on cushioning the economy from the impacts of the MERS outbreak and prolonged drought. Japan's latest attempt to whitewash history draws more criticism, this time from a Japanese-American politician who slammed Tokyo for trying to hide the dark history of its newly inscribed World Heritage Sites. It looks like it's all clear for Samusng C&T to proceed with a planned merger as a Seoul Court denies its injunction requested by Elliott Associates, dismissing claims of an unfair deal. All next on Primetime News. It's 10 p.m. on a Tuesday here in Korea. Hello and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Daniel Choy.
And I'm Hwang Ji-hye. Thank you for joining us. A day after the parliament fell short of a majority to vote again on disputed revisions to the National Assembly law, President Park Geun-hye, who vetoed the revisions, remained tight-lipped on politics.
Instead, she spent most of today's cabinet meeting on measures to revive the domestic economy, although she did have a strong message for the cabinet. All right, Choi Yoo-sun starts us off.
Keeping mum about politics since vetoing a bill to revise the National Assembly law nearly 2 weeks ago, President Park Geun-hye focused most of her attention at Tuesday's cabinet meeting on the local economy. Concerned about the economic impact of a severe drought and the MERS outbreak, the president stressed the need to include a recently pledged $10 billion supplementary budget in the government's $20 billion stimulus package.
추경이 조속한 시일 내에 통과할 수 있도록 관계부처 모두 국회 심의에 적극 협조하고 통과 즉시 바로 집행이 될 수 있도록 행정부 내부 준비에도 만전을 기하기를 바랍니다.
She called for the necessary aid to reach businesses and industries hurt by the MERS outbreak at the right time, and asked civil servants and the corporate sector to take their summer holidays in the country to revitalize the local tourism sector. President Park also called for a close examination of how the Greek debt crisis will affect the Korean economy. The president, who lobbed heavy criticism at ruling party floor leader Yoo Seung-min for engaging in politics for his own personal philosophy at the previous meeting, urged the cabinet this time to prioritize improving the people's livelihoods and the domestic economy.
국무위원들께서도 국민을 대신해서 각 부처를 잘 이끌어 주셔야 합니다. 여기에는 개인적인 행로가 있을 수 없을 것입니다.
By not making any direct comment about the embattled floor leader, President Park has clearly stood by her position that his resignation is the only way to put an end to the political discord over the controversial law revisions. Choi Yoo-sun, Arirang News.
Over on the opposition party's proposal of a bill named after President Park Geun-hye, the presidential office says it's inappropriate to use the president's name. The bill is a previously scrapped revision to the National Assembly law that was co-signed by President Park Geun-hye in 1998 and 1999 when she was a lawmaker. Her spokesperson says that President Park herself had not put forth the old revisions, but rather had merely co-signed it. He added that the recent revisions to the Assembly law, which the president vetoed, is fundamentally different from the bill that she co-signed. The opposition party is accusing the president of contradicting herself, since the old revisions would also have required that the administration accept Parliament's request to change ordinances. Staying on local politics, the fate of the ruling Saenuri Party's embattled floor leader Yoo Seung-min will be decided at a general meeting of party lawmakers on tomorrow morning. Our Park Ji-won has the latest on the man who has been under intense pressure to resign from the presidential office and within his own party.
The ruling Saenuri Party's Supreme Council will convene a general meeting of its lawmakers on Wednesday to end its internal strife over the fate of its floor leader Yoo Seung-min.
The Supreme Council said it will convene a general meeting with the goal of adopting a resolution to urge the floor leader to resign for the future of the party and the success of the Park Geun-hye administration.
Second-term lawmaker Kim Tae-ho, who is one of 5 Supreme Council members, further explained.
I think Supreme Council members share an understanding that a quick resolution is beneficial for both the public and the party.
Yu said on Tuesday that he would accept the will of his fellow lawmakers.
The Supreme Council asked for a general meeting to be convened at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, and I accepted the request. I also accept the outcome of the meeting. That's it.
The Supreme Council's pressure on Yu comes after an internal deadline set by lawmakers loyal to President Park, which was this Monday. Yu has been facing growing pressure from within the party to step down ever since President Park criticized him for his role in the initial passage late last month of a bill she vetoed. Still, a sizable number of his fellow conservative lawmakers support him. A local media outlet surveyed the allegiances of all Saenuri Party lawmakers, and it showed those loyal to President Park account for roughly 22%, while those who are not part of the pro-Park faction account for an estimated 34%. The rest of the party's members, or roughly 44%, are neutral. Due to the relatively smaller percentage of President Park loyalists inside the party, some analysts speculate that Yu's resignation will only deepen the internal strife within the party. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
There's fresh controversy today after UNESCO's recent listing of Japanese wartime industrial facilities as World Heritage Sites. The Japanese government is already trying to muddy the waters. They are trying to hide the fact that they forced thousands of people into slavery at those facilities. According to our Kim Hyun-bin, some of the voices of criticism come from within.
U.S. Congressman Mike Honda has taken aim at the Japanese government for failing to inform the public at home that Tokyo has acknowledged the use of forced labor at several of Japan's newly UNESCO-inscribed sites. Describing it as a typical tactic to mislead the Japanese people on history, Honda said Tokyo avoided using the expression forced labor, instead translating it into a much softer colloquial expression. The Japanese-American representative called on Japan to be honest about the facility's history and fully acknowledged that POWs from around the world suffered there. He also advised Japan to clearly apologize to victims still alive. This comes after Japanese media reported on Monday that Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida said Tokyo did not acknowledge that Koreans were forced to labor at several of the sites. In his comments, he made reference to Japanese ambassador to UNESCO Kuni Sato's statement at the World Heritage Committee meeting, which said a large number of Koreans were forced to work at some of the sites.
The expression forced to work does not imply forced labor.
Seoul's foreign ministry reacted quickly to refute the minister's claims, saying the English version of the statement is the one officially adopted by UNESCO's World Heritage Committee. Therefore, it's the official text, and there's no room for misinterpretation. Japan's daily Mainichi Shimbun also refuted the government's position, saying in an editorial that Koreans were forced into hard labor without freedom to switch jobs, and called on the government not to escalate tensions with Korea. Japan must submit a progress report by the end of 2017 on its efforts to publicly acknowledge incidents of forced labor at the sites. The report will be reviewed by the World Heritage Committee the following year. But if Japan's progress is deemed unsatisfactory, the sites could be removed from the UNESCO list. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
In other news, 3 North Korean crewmen rescued in South Korean waters have expressed their will to defect to South Korea. Seoul's Unification Ministry said Tuesday that South Korean Coast Guard saved 5 North Korean sailors listing in their boat near the waters of Ulleungdo Island on Saturday. South Korea says it will honor the will of the 3 sailors according to custom and swiftly return the 2 other sailors who asked to be repatriated through the truce village of Panmunjom. North Korea had requested all 5 fishermen be sent back.
A day after Greeks overwhelmingly voted against the terms of their bailout program, the leaders of Greece's major creditor nations, Germany and France, held a meeting to discuss what to do next. They say the doors for talks are open, but urged Athens to come up with serious proposals to move things forward. Our Han Da-eun tells us more.
Sunday's referendum has emboldened Greece to push for a bailout package that's in their best interest. But tensions remain high between the debt-ridden country and its Eurozone partners. German Chancellor Angela Merkel says the country respects the results of Sunday's referendum, but stressed that Athens needs to work quickly to come up with constructive proposals to address the current crisis.
Time is of the essence, and we insist that the Greek proposals must be on the table this week, so we can deal with the situation the way it is at the moment.
French President François Hollande, who previously deferred with Merkel on how to handle the Greek crisis, echoed Merkel's comments this time, saying that Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras needs to make serious, credible proposals so his desire to stay in the Eurozone can be realized. The two leaders called on Eurozone leaders to hold an emergency summit in Brussels on Tuesday, local time. At the talks, the Greek Prime Minister is expected to present a new proposal that reportedly demands the country's debt be cut by up to 30%. Tsipras, who gained a major boost after Sunday's victory, has already made clear that he wants the proposed debt relief outlined in the IMF's latest report on Greece to be part of the agenda for future talks. The IMF had said that Greece's debts are unsustainable and should be restructured. All eyes are now fixed on the Greek leader's upcoming proposal, as it's regarded as his last chance to save the country from imminent financial collapse. Greek banks will remain shut and capital controls will stay in place until Wednesday, local time. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
And the results of the Greek referendum are taking a toll on stock markets and oil prices. A growing number of analysts fear the situation could have serious effects on the already fragile global economy, with Korea being no exception. Our Kwon So-ah reports.
It was no big surprise that the results of Greece's referendum dragged down global stock markets at the beginning of the week. European countries were affected the most. There were moderate falls in the U.S. and a plunge across much of Asia. Oil prices saw their biggest decline in 3 months, with U.S. crude plummeting nearly 8%. In Korea, stocks took a blow on Monday after results of the Greek vote were finalized. But Tuesday started on a positive note, with analysts attributing the slight rebound to growing anticipation that Athens would re-engage in negotiations with its creditors. But both the benchmark Kospi and tech-heavy Kosdaq closed off even lower than on Monday, prompting caution against downplaying Greece's effects on the Korean economy. Experts say since Korea does not have deep commerce ties with Greece, with exports accounting for just around $1 billion annually, the effects won't be direct.
Due to psychological factors, foreign investors pulled out their stocks. Whether that's going to be a short-term or long-term issue depends on how smoothly and quickly Greece will negotiate with its creditors.
Voices of concern are being heard across the world.
So we're seeing an increase in volatility. The VIX has spiked because of this, and we're going to see a global sell-off because there is so much uncertainty.
It's a catastrophic scenario for the markets. It could not be worse because in case of a new disagreement between the creditors and the Greek government, we are moving towards a Greek request to exit the Eurozone.
And the prospect of that Brexit is a major concern. There is fear that it could set off a rash of similar cases that could destabilize the entire European community and even impact the U.S. Fed's ability to raise interest rates later this year. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Let's move over to the tech realm now. Samsung Electronics struggles to regain the spark that drove it to the top of that world. Analysts say disappointing smartphone sales most likely ate into profits made by its memory chip division. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
Second quarter figures from Samsung Electronics show the Korean tech giant is slowly recovering, but it's still underperforming compared to a year ago. In its preliminary earnings forecast, Samsung posted an operating profit of $6.1 billion, up more than 15% from the previous quarter. Compared to last year, it's down 4%. Sales also fell 8% on year to nearly $43 billion. After an earnings shock in the third quarter of last year, Samsung has been on a mild recovery track. But second quarter earnings still fall slightly below analyst expectations.
There were high hopes right after the release of its new Galaxy S6 model, but sales did not meet expectations. Its mobile division will continue to pose a challenge throughout this year as profits aren't expected to pick up.
The expert also attributes the dull earnings to Samsung's failure to meet immediate demand for its Galaxy S6 Edge, the industry's first smartphone with curved screens on both sides. On top of this, Apple has been eating into Samsung's share of the market with its bigger iPhones, while Chinese players have been gaining ground at the lower end. Analysts assume the majority of Samsung's profits will be generated by its memory chip division, which already outpaced the mobile arm in terms of operating profits in the first quarter.
Although market watchers expect the modest recovery to continue into the next quarter on the back of brisk chip sales, they emphasize that that doesn't necessarily mean an improvement for Samsung as its mobile business continues to wane and its soon-to-be-released models are not expected to be game changers. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Well, however, Samsung Group celebrates at the expense of Elliott Associates as they face another disappointment. A Seoul Court turned down an injunction request by the American hedge fund that's trying to block a merger between two of the group's units. Shin Se-min gives us the details.
The ruling is out. The proposed merger between Samusng C&T and Seoul Industries has been cleared to move on to the next level after the Seoul Central District Court dismissed all injunctions brought by U.S. hedge fund Elliott Associates. The court said Samusng C&T's recent sale of treasury shares to merger-friendly local manufacturer KCC Corporation is reasonable and that it does not go against the interests of its shareholders as Elliott has claimed. Elliott, the third largest shareholder in Samsung's construction unit, has been trying to block an $8 billion all-stock takeover offer for Samusng C&T from Seoul Industries, Samsung Group's de facto holding firm, arguing that the merger is unfair and that C&T shareholders would be getting well under the market price for their shares. In June, KCC acquired an over 5% stake in the construction firm, a move seen as an attempt by Samusng C&T to win the merger vote at a shareholders' meeting next Friday. Still, the battle isn't over. Following the ruling, Elliott said it will appeal the decision with the possibility that it could take it up to the international level. For now, Samusng C&T will go ahead with a scheduled shareholder vote on July 17th, where it will most likely win approval for the merger. Last week, a Seoul court rejected the first injunction, saying that the merger ratio of 0.35 Seoul shares for one share of Samusng C&T could not be seen as unjust, as it was calculated based on current share prices. The merger is seen as part of Samsung Group's plan for a generational transfer of power from hospitalized chairman Lee Gun-hee to heir apparent Lee Jae-yong, as the deal will allow the junior successor to tighten his control over Samsung Electronics through his current shares in Seoul Industries. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Let's shift gears to a different story now. Chip credit is fueling rapid growth in Korea's household debt, which posted its biggest gain in May compared to previously compiled May data. The Bank of Korea says the amount of debt shot up $7.5 billion from the previous month. That includes loans took out from a government-led program aimed at easing household debt risks. Total household loan, adding up credit card usage and loan from insurance companies, is estimated to exceed roughly $970 billion. And for top international news headlines, we connect to our Lee Sun-ho at the News Center.
Sun-ho, let's get into our first story. It appears that President Obama has decided to offer his support to the Syrian opposition.
That's right. On Monday, U.S. President Barack Obama promised to offer more support for the opposition in Syria's civil war. He called on a number of measures, including cracking down on the Islamic State's illegal financial operations throughout the world, going after its leadership and infrastructure, and even raising up local forces. All tasks that he says won't be easy.
It will take time to root them out. And doing so must be the job of local forces on the ground with training and air support from our coalition.
However, Obama stated he had no plans to send any more troops abroad from the U.S. He instead stressed that by having a strong partner on the ground in Iraq, the U.S. and its allies would ultimately succeed in bringing down the Islamic State. And a sad day in Yemen. Nearly 100 people were killed in Saudi-led airstrikes, casting a dark cloud over ongoing truce talks between Houthi rebels and the Yemeni government. It was reported that at least 54 people had lost their lives in the Amran district alone. This included 40 civilians that were in a marketplace in the Al Yazid district on Monday. More than 40 others were also killed in the town of Al-Foyush, north of the seaport city of Aden. United Nations Special Envoy Ismail Ould Sheikh Ahmed, who arrived in Sana'a on Sunday, called for a halt to the violence until the Ramadan Muslim festival ends on July 17th, this so that humanitarian aid could be distributed. The Houthis and the Yemeni government are showing signs that they will uphold the ceasefire. Some 3,000 people have been killed in the fighting since March. Released documents from 2005 show that Bill Cosby confessed to obtaining prescription quaaludes with intentions to sedate young women into having sex with him. The comedian admitted to this in a testimony during a civil lawsuit brought against him by a former university employee. She claimed that Cosby made her take the drugs before he sexually assaulted her. Though the case was originally settled for an undisclosed amount, court files were finally unveiled on Monday after being obtained by the Associated Press. Cosby's lawyers responded by saying that the files would bring shame to the comedian. Since last year, Cosby has faced allegations that he sexually assaulted over 40 women spanning decades. Though he has not been officially charged with anything as of yet, his career has taken a major hit, with many of his shows being canceled. And that's it for today's international news. I'll be back with more tomorrow night.
While it was a mix of sun and clouds in Seoul and the surrounding areas, Jeju and southern regions have received heavy monsoon showers today. And Gangwon-do province will see rain from later tonight, but the Seoul metropolitan area will have to wait till tomorrow night before sporadic showers set in. So the capital is only looking at about 5 to 10 millimeters of very light precipitation, which will not do much to ease the dryness or help clear up the algal blooms in local waterways. And now taking a closer look at tomorrow's temperatures, they should be a tad higher than today. And Seoul hit 28, while Daegu and Gwangju rise to 23 and 26, and Busan will climb up to 23 tomorrow afternoon. And as for the other parts, it seems like Daejeon and Jeju Island will see a high of 25 and 26, while Dokdo rises to 21. Now, temperatures should hover in the upper 20s here in the capital for next couple of days, but another scorcher is on the way on Friday and Saturday. Well, that's all for the weather. Good night.
Well, lotus flowers rise from the mud, bloom out of the darkness, and radiate into the world, reminding us we can do the same. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Hwang Ji-hye.
And this has been Daniel Choy. Do join us again, same time tomorrow. Goodbye for now.